take a second to think about one of your favorite teachers. Think about their name. Think about who they were. Think about what they taught you. Think about why they were your favorite. Miss Kimberly, my first grade teacher, is one of my favorite teachers. She was very kind. She always made me feel important during class. We had a different relationship. She would oftentimes call me after an episode of Fear Factor, and we would talk about what happened and how crazy things got. Mr. S was also one of my favorite teachers. He was my 12th grade psychology teacher, and he always listened to everything that I had to say. He taught me to be a good listener because I had his example, and he also taught me that it was okay to talk about things that you were going through. Notice that I did not talk about academics whenever I talked about these teachers. I didn't talk about the grades that I got in the class. I didn't talk about what they taught me related to subject matter, but I did talk about things that they taught me that are not related to academics. As teachers, it is important to do this. Academics are very important in education, but sometimes teachers also need to teach other lessons. By establishing a sense of community in our classrooms, teaching kindness, and advocating for our students, we can improve our students' self-efficacy, or the way that they perceive their ability to do something, and we can also improve their education. Have you ever been in a class where you weren't comfortable raising questions or answering questions? This makes learning very difficult. When a teacher establishes a sense of community in a classroom, students are more likely to have a voice. Group work can be a huge help in this. Students are able to meet with a few people at a time and switch up the groups that they meet with throughout the year, and so they're able to feel comfortable in those small groups, and then that will relate to being able to feel comfortable in the classroom as a whole. If students are working with each other, they will feel more comfortable in the classroom. In one of my classes, we spent the first couple minutes dedicated to something called For the Good of the Order. This was the time for our classmates to bring up problems in society or talk about questions that they had about an upcoming test or homework assignment or just the class in general. And it was just a time for us to have a discussion with each other about things that may or may not be related to class. And this discussion was really helpful in building community in the classroom because we were able to just talk as friends, and it wasn't so serious in the sense that it was strictly about the class that we were in, and it was just, we had to be there to talk about the class. It was just a little fun time to break the ice in the class and get to know each other through that. This also let us know that our teacher valued what we had to say and valued our opinion and wanted to interact with us. Another aspect of communication or community in the class is including students in leadership. If students are able to make decisions in how they run the classroom, how they want the classroom to run, as long as it's practical, because sometimes students tend to get a little silly. They'll be more willing to participate in class. They'll be proud of the rules that they put in place. They'll be proud of how a classroom is. When students feel like they are supported by their peers, they are more likely to establish relationships with their peers, and this will lead to kindness among one another. We need to promote kindness between our students, but we also need to be that example and be kind to our students as well. Now think about a teacher that you did not like. Maybe it was because of what they taught you. Maybe it was because they felt like, or you felt like they didn't value your opinion, or maybe it was just because they yelled at you for silly things over and over and over. Rita Pierson once said, students don't learn from people that they don't like. Students are more likely to respond to people who are kind to them. Aristotle said, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. A sure way to show our students that we care for them is to let them know that we are rooting for them. Advocating for our students will improve their education. Rita Pierson is a wonderful woman. She's been an educator for over 40 years, and she gave a TED Talk about education, and it's called Every Student Deserves a Champion. In this speech, she talks about this one instance where she had this class that was so low, so academically low, and just their self-esteem was low. And she had this idea to give the students this little mantra to say before class and during class sometimes. And it was just an uplifting phrase. It was very positive, and it got them to think about why they were in school and that they could become something much better than they are right now. She lifted them up by doing this. I encourage you to go watch her TED Talk. It's really great. It is especially important because talking about advocating our students, we might think that that's what their parents are for, but not all students have that support system at home. Nicholas Ferroni said, students who are loved at home come to school to learn. Students who aren't come to school to be loved. Being a teacher is not an easy task. It is worthwhile when we see our students improve, when we see them encourage one another, when we see them open up. If we want students to thrive, we must create those conditions that they will be more able to thrive in. Establishing community in the classroom, teaching kindness, and advocating our students are those conditions that will help them thrive in their education. We must always remember the words of the great woman Rita Pierson that I've mentioned a couple times in this speech. She says, every kid deserves a champion, an adult who will not give up on them, who will understand the power of connection, and insist that they become the best that they can possibly be. Thank you.